Eu, antes de fazermos a pausa para café, que irá durar até às 11h30, gostaria de perguntar à assistência se há alguma questão que queiram colocar aos 3 oradores que acabaram de fazer as suas intervenções, se há alguma questão que queira ser colocada. Eu próprio tenho aqui 1 ou 2 questões, mas não sei, primeiro talvez... Well, Professor Mongelli, I will make this question in English if you... Professor, antes de mais nada, first of all, Professor João Braga de Macedo, he will make a question, will ask a question.
Muito obrigado. Eu ia retomar o último ponto da apresentação, que menciona uma colaboração a todos os títulos desejável entre economia e direito, mas penso que mesmo nestas questões monetárias é importante não esquecer a ciência política. Normalmente temos economia e ciência política, political economy em inglês, que foi traduzido por um francês como economia da política, que me parece mais correto do que economia política, que não quer dizer a mesma coisa. Mas, de facto, a dimensão jurídica nestes assuntos está agora a começar. E, portanto, esta conclusão deixa de fora um elemento importante que me pareceria importante também mencionar, o policy e o politics. Don't forget about policy, don't forget about politics, seria o resumo do que eu disse em português. Obrigado.
I don't know if any of the speakers wishes to make a statement on this. It was not a question, it was an observation.
Okay, can you summarize it?
Professor said that it's not just legal and economics, but also political science that matters. Policy and politics matter.
And going forward.
Yes, in all these matters.
Okay.
If you have any comment on this?
Okay. Thank you for this statement. So what we know is that the crisis of the euro area is a multi-layered crisis. It's a crisis at various levels, and this was confirmed also by the 2 speakers that followed me. So we have the monetary events, the financial events playing out. We have a crisis of insufficient institutions, the architecture, the framework, and so forth. Then we have if you want, a crisis of democracy that basically we have some institutions which have leapt forward, filled the gap, but this is only in exceptional circumstances and is meant to be limited in time. Troika is not our job, and is not going to be a persistent, permanent feature. And as you probably know, there is a discussion about a European monetary fund, how to develop this fiscal governance and so forth. For most, now we witness skepticism or critical Europeanism. We see a lot of sort of resistance to move forward, and yet we need to protect the harmonization of monetary and financial markets, explain these moves. So I would say, so your question, your statement does not have a simple answer. It's
really a comment.
Yeah. On the fact that we need, I would say, political scientists, lawyers, constitutional lawyers, and together with financial economists, and so forth. I totally agree. Yes, and it's actually I'm very impressed by CIDEEFF that is hosting this event. I think we should tell this to law schools in Italy and maybe in other countries that they should really become more proactive in basically in encouraging this interdisciplinarity. So, thank you.
Pergunto novamente se há alguma questão que queiram colocar. Well, Professor, I would like to ask you a question.
Yeah,
For you. You have said that, or you have admitted that these non-conventional measures will probably become conventional in the future. This means that the monetary policy will become even more aggressive, and if so, which will be the limit for that? Where could we reach in terms of activeness of the monetary policy?
Okay. To quote myself, I was quoting Ricardo Reis, a very productive Portuguese economist, who poses this as a question mark. He says, are we witnessing a new paradigm or not? I don't know. I don't have an answer myself. So we are living through still in a situation in which, as we heard, the banking union needs to be completed. The capital market union is being debated, and exceptional policies are playing out their effect. Their effects is shown in the slides, and unfortunately I didn't show any of my positive slides. The effects are encouraging, but we have a legacy. So I would say my answer to Nazare's question is, we don't know. We don't know yet, or at least I don't have an answer.
Just a final question. Well, I would like to ask Professor Fritz Breitz and João Amador as well. You have admitted that there are some fragilities, some ineffectiveness in the monetary policy, some aspects which are not totally well accomplished. My question is, should this monetary policy be completed with other instruments, or, for instance, fiscal union or something of that sort? Or do you believe that the market by itself will create the mechanisms to overcome all these imbalances that we have met these last years? What is your opinion?
Okay, thank you. I think we have enough instruments now for the monetary policy, which we don't have compared to the American system is a cooperation between fiscal policy and monetary policy. I would say the success or the better performance in the United States coming out of the crisis was the cooperation of fiscal and monetary policy. But we, due to the law in the EU, in our EU treaty, we have a separation. We have a separation of independent monetary policy should not cooperate ex ante with fiscal policy. I think this is a big mistake. This should be corrected to come. But the problem is that we have no federal fiscal policy for the Eurozone. So Macron now said, well, we need a finance minister for the Eurozone. So this is the future music. If we will have this, then we can talk about this cooperative situation.
Just a couple of words. And before I answer, let me just, I had this in my slides, I mentioned explicitly, but all that I've said are just my views. They don't in any way reflect the views of Bank of Portugal or the Euro system. So I'm here speaking just as a researcher. I fully take the point, and I fully subscribe this view. I mean, there's something that comes out of the crisis that the ECB has been the only entity that has been actively trying to solve the problems. And this is not supposed to be the optimal solution. Fiscal policy plays a big role, should play a big role. It has not played such a stabilizing role up to now. Again, my point comes back. I mean, this should have been thought at the initial stage. And it wouldn't be that hard because we had optimal currency theories that would exactly stating which are the elements that must be there for a currency union to be an optimal currency union. I understand that there's this political drive of getting things done fast. And maybe sometimes we have to jump to get some progress. But when it comes to creating a monetary union, I mean, you have to, it's like jumping over a cliff. You have to jump full way to get to the other side. So you need to put everything in place. Fiscal federalism should be there. A lender of last resort should be there. You should have a plan how to address if problems come, fiscal crisis come, a banking crisis come. If you just jump halfway, of course you cannot stay there, and you will have a problem. So now this debate is going on. What I'm afraid is that if things improve in economic terms, we will forget about all this, and we will think that everything is in place, and we can skip the final stages in the banking union. That's not really necessary. Everything is going fine, and then later on we will have a new crisis. There is this story that it's never optimal to take to reform and to do serious reform. When you are in a crisis, you say we shouldn't reform because we are in a crisis. It's not the right moment. When you are in a recovery, we shouldn't reform because we shouldn't just spoil the recovery, so we should postpone. When you are in the good times, you shouldn't reform because everything is working so well that why should we reform? And I'm a bit afraid that if things in economic terms improve, we will basically, this interest with what's missing in the monetary union will fade away. Probably it won't. And my second point is regarding with the monetary policy going forward. It's quite clear that in the US, this monetary policy stance has reverted already. In Europe, I mean, it was shown it will have to go in the same direction sooner or later. But my concern is that there's too much liquidity, and we already, if we look at stock exchange and financial markets, we see that there's probably overvaluation already. And this excess liquidity sooner or later ends up in an asset bubble, and we've seen many of them in these recent decades. And each one is much larger than the previous one. So with so much liquidity now, the likelihood of a bubble, it's not small, and it will be probably a very large bubble. And the numbers are already very striking when you look at the stock exchange, notably in the US. So the risk of a new crisis, probably sooner than later, I don't know, is actually there. So it's another motive for us to really put in place all the mechanisms that we need to be on the safe side if these things repeat themselves.
Muito obrigada. Sendo assim, neste momento, peço desculpa, entretanto o tempo passou, já são 11h30, portanto vamos então recomeçar os nossos trabalhos a 1/4 para o 12h. Portanto, nessa altura recomeçamos os trabalhos. Muito obrigada pela vossa presença.